Welcome back, Mr. Witness. May I remind you
Thank you.
before we continue our proceedings that you are still under oath.
Okay.
Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Gomez, welcome back.
Thank you, Chair.
Council, can you proceed, please? Thank you.
Mr. Gomez, I am happy to have you back.
Thank you.
So we will just go through some of the findings outlined in various audit reports by the Auditor General, and we see what your office's reaction was in relation to your oversight function as the Director of Governance. So I will start with Brikama Area Council. With respect to the audit report dated 26th day of October 2022, for the years ended 31st December 2020 and 31st December 2021. Now, I will read some of the findings for you, and then we can discuss as to what were the steps taken in relation to trying to address them. So I will first turn to page 82. So it's in relation to withholding tax. So the auditor has highlighted that there were issues regarding withholding of tax on page 82, and therefore the findings were that we note that the area council did not deduct 10% of withholding tax from its contractors for carrying out work as required by the above act. So I'm not sure whether you are familiar with this process.
No.
The responsibility of the area councils to make sure that they withhold tax whenever they engage into any contractual agreement with third parties also.
No, I'm not aware of that provision.
Yes, so this is a finding with respect to the audit report, and then in all the contracts that they have entered into, it was found out that they did not withhold tax, 10% tax, as it is required by law. So again, I will take it that you haven't had access to the audit report based on your previous answers.
Yes.
And therefore you couldn't act on them because you don't have access to it.
Yes, if I don't have access to them, I can't act.
So now, what will be the way forward in relation to addressing these issues? Are there any mechanism as to how your office will address issues that have been outlined or been found to be issues of imminent concern at the level of the area councils?
Yes, as far as I'm concerned, as you are highlighting on those issues, it's not game over. And then we'll dig into the various points highlighted by the Auditor General in the audit reports, and ensure that whatever necessary action or appropriate action to be taken is well executed.
Very well. So again, I turn to page 86 of the same audit report. This time it is in relation to payroll deductions. Are you familiar with payroll deductions, the rules governing payroll deductions?
Payroll deductions.
Now, the financial and accounting manual for local government authorities state that no employee can take a new payroll loan while servicing another existing one, that the loan deduction cannot exceed 50%. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
And so you have, in this instance, wherein it was noted that staff were paid less than 50% of their salaries as take home for the year 2021. What is your reaction to that?
A staff, that's one.
Staffs.
Oh, okay,
staffs. Yeah.
We are paid less than 50%.
Yes.
And the tax was deducted.
Yes.
Yeah. What is wrong is wrong. Whatever is wrong is wrong. It can't be made right.
No, but then what is your responsibility as an inspector and as an oversight institution?
Is to rectify it.
And how are you supposed to rectify these issues that have been raised?
Yeah, we didn't. Like as I said, I'm not very much au fait with this report, but some of the reports when they come, I give them to my team to pick them council by council, and then we discuss the points.
Do you know?
What I know of the most recent audit reports are not yet before us, before my desk.
Have you acted upon any audit report?
Yes, by way of like picking the salient points.
Can you give us an example of an instance wherein an audit report has highlighted a particular problem and you have acted on it?
Yes, it is normally acted upon during periodic inspection and monitoring.
Do you have any example to that effect?
By the team. Offhand, I can't remember which, or to give which example to this commission.
No, so how do you see this problem? When you have staffs going home with less than 50%, there must be a reason as to why it has been clearly prohibited in accordance with the financial manual of the local government area councils. So that basically people wouldn't just be paying, servicing loans, and at the end of the day, they go home empty-handed. That may lead to so many things. You will agree with me. Number one, if you can't cater for your family, that's why you're working. So in essence, people may actually do some other issues like engage in fraudulent activities and so on and so forth. That's why there has to be control as to what limit can someone be granted loan and be servicing certain loans.
Yes, I believe a loan shouldn't be granted twice. Like you grant a loan while he or she is servicing the loan, you approve another loan. That is in itself is wrong.
Exactly.
Wherever it may happen. And servicing a loan should be based on the person's pay grade. If my salary, for example, is $10, and you are asking me to pay maybe $8 a monthly, what then will I take home? So it needs to be worked out in such a way that the staff doesn't suffer in terms of repayment of the loan.
Now, we will move to page 87 before I make a general comment. In relation to incomplete personal files. Yes, so you have staff personal files reveal that several key documents as simple as birth certificates, appointment letters, and qualifications were not in the file. So this is also a problem that you find not only in Banjul, but also across the area councils.
Yes, I agree with you. We have issues in respect of having the complete data that is required in every employee's file. And typical of which sometimes you come across even a senior officer of council to produce his or her birth certificate, for example, or to produce maybe a teen certificate, for example, is always push and pull. Oh, I'll provide it next time when you come around. But it is a concern to us. And
why must there be a push and pull when you have an act, you have regulation in relation to how you address these issues? Are you not familiar with the Local Government Act?
I am, of course.
And then, so what will you say your responsibility is as the Director of Governance in relation to addressing these problems?
Maybe you could have given an ultimatum to the individual or staff concerned to produce it, failure of which A, B, and C could happen.
Is that only a lapse on the side of the staff concerned, or is it a lapse on the side of the administration? Because again, if I am employed and they didn't ask me any documentation or haven't produced any, all I am interested in is my salary being paid.
That's right.
So if the minimum requirement is not being met, and then they didn't ask for it for whatever reason, then you don't necessarily leave it to the staff to make these regulations and meet up with these regulations. The administration must be able to enforce these things, and that is where your office comes in, right?
Yep. Certainly, I agree with you, Council. It all boils down during recruitment. Once a staff is recruited and offered a job, from that point, a file should be created and all the nitty-gritties for that staff concerned should be produced or provided. We have had these issues, and that's why we took the trouble of now having staff files at the ministry. That is in addition to the filing system at the respective councils. We have taken it upon ourselves. In fact, we have even organized a special visit or special inspection primarily on payroll to ensure that every member of staff has a file, both at whatever council, and a similar copy is reproduced at our level where we store.
When was that exercise implemented?
2020 or 2021. Around that.
do you ever embark on that exercise? Your
No,
office?
no. It's my staff.
Yes.
No,
Do you have records to prove that you have embarked on that exercise?
Yes, we have them at the office.
Okay. Can you make that special staff exercise available to us?
All right, okay, I will.
Now, you can again turn to page. Sorry, you don't have the copy. So page 88, I will turn to. It is in relation to overstatement of bank charges. Now, you know, the issues that have been highlighted, they vary. There are some are in relation to the operational manual of the area councils. Others in relation to possible fraudulent actions as well being highlighted. Now, we expect, of course, there will be actions taken when you don't do your oversight function and find these problems, but then they have been done as well by the Auditor General. We still expect that there should be actions taken. Now, it was noted that overstatement of bank charges of $40,151.64 bututs in the cash book for the year ended 31st December 2020. The charges were $48,827.94 bututs and $88,979.50 bututs in respect of EcoBank statements and cash book respectively. So, how does your office address these issues?
The best approach is to verify with the staff concerned or the office concerned, as highlighted by the National Audit Office. And if it is true, then to surcharge him or her for the variance to recover that,
now,
to pay back to the council.
Now, in the performance of your role as an inspector, so what would you say are the rights that you have in relation to those performance?
The rights?
If you want to engage into an inspection, let's say you want to inspect Kanifing or Banjul, the area council there, or Brikama, any of the area councils. Now, what are your rights as an inspector at that point? How do you conduct these inspections?
Yes, we notify them in writing and what the TOR will be for that particular exercise, and the team will then proceed.
So when you go for the site visits, you can request for documentation?
Yes.
And review documentation?
Yes, the team has the absolute right to request for whatever documentation that may be relevant to the inspection.
To the inspection.
Yes, and access to any other material that may be relevant to the inspection.
And then there's no limit to this inspection rights?
There's no
limit as to what the team can do. There's no limit at all?
No, there's no limit.
So whether it is the exercise is in relation to the personnel management or financial malpractices, you have no limit as to what you can request. And you can also interview employees as well.
Yes.
So, but then why haven't you been doing that?
For every inspection, we try to avoid biting what we may be struggling to chew. Like wanting to inspect A to Z at one particular go. And that is why the team will sit and come up with a TOR, an area of focus for that particular inspection, so that the subsequent inspections will change. How do you determine what your TOR will be for a particular inspection? No, the team will sit over it, and then iron it out. No, we discuss to agree or disagree. Now you have 8 area councils, right? And therefore you decide that today we are going to Basse for inspection. How do you decide what your TOR will be? No, what will inform your decision making? Sometimes the problems emanating, like it will be on staff matters, P files or whatever, will inform the nature or magnitude of the inspection exercise. And so, when there was a problem with respect to incomplete works being done, the auditor highlighted as well that it was observed that the road maintenance and rehabilitation works were incompleted during their site visit on 22nd June 2022. Work should have been completed by September 2021. This is a report
that was finalized in 2022. And so it was found out that the works were never completed.
Okay.
And this information will definitely come to the notice of the ministry. Are there steps taken towards making sure that the necessary actions are being taken?
Was the reason or reasons advanced there on the report why it wasn't completed?
The management said the delay in maintaining is mainly attributed to the untimely procurement of materials by the contractor. This also coincided with the shortage of cement and basalt aggregated in the country. Thereafter, the contractor requested for extension of time, which was evaluated and eventually granted. Now, you have this information. They are giving you excuses. It may be right, it may be wrong. But then you have a primary role as an oversight institution to make sure you do you go and find out what is the issue. Have you done that? Are you aware whether it was done?
No, it wasn't.
Again, let's go to KMC. Let's proceed.
Before you go to KMC, can I please find out from you, Mr. Gomez?
Yes, madam.
The Mansakonko Area Council wrote on the 5th of March 2019, and the reason being that one Ibrahim Asane, in 2016, he was written to with respect to 1,125,000, which was unaccounted for at the council. My first question is, do you normally appoint the finance directors as CEOs as you progress?
Yes, the commission.
The commission, it does that. So in this case, the former finance director was appointed as CEO, and he had issues based on the letter that was written by Ibrahim N. Jane, who was the director of finance as of the 5th of March 2019. He wrote to the CEO, that is, you can correct me if I am right, Ibrahim Asane, complaining about a lot of issues in this letter. I will avail it to you.
Ibrahim Asane.
Ibrahim Asane, that is what is in this letter.
We've never had a CEO by that name.
Okay, you can check the letter, but let me just finish what I have seen here for you to clarify.
Okay.
So this was a letter that was written to you about the issue that Ibrahim Asane last submission was on the, I think he was the then finance director, but you will look at the letter and confirm. Now the issue is, up to the time he became the CEO, because in this letter, Ibrahim N. Jane was writing to the CEO, and he copied all of you with respect to this for your notice and for your action. Now, my question is, this missing 1,125,000, was it recovered? Registrar, can you hand him over this? And also, in the same vein, the chairman, Mansakonko Area Council, wrote a memo to the CEO about the finance committee report being missing or being submitted and having issues. And the finance subcommittee on financial misconduct involving Ibrahim Asane, Lamin Cham, Lamin Balde was forwarded to the ministry for them to take action. And they said in that memo, they need a conclusion on this issue urgently so that their council can function properly. Because without resolving these issues, they will continue to have problem in the execution of their duties. So please look at the letter and clarify or explain what you know and understand about this issue. Yes, these two. These two.
Yes. No. I can't remember coming over in contact or interacting with this document, and I'll not be
me
able to
just say
shed
that-
light on it.
Yes. Okay, but looking at that, is it correct that it is the Director of Finance that was complaining against the CEO?
Yes, because the letter emanated from Director of Finance addressed to the CEO.
All right, thank you. So you said you have not had the opportunity of...
Yes. to
But
see
how,
this.
Mr. Gomez, how often do you look at these files?
No, like this was well before I occupied the office.
Oh, okay, thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. But subsequently, because this is in 2019.
19.
So when did you occupy the office?
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
So in 2020, you had no recourse to deal with this issue. There was nothing brought before you pursuant
For
to
this.
this issue. Yes.
No.
So, in other words, it will be safe for someone to say that this issue is not resolved.
Yes, that could be the assumption.
Thank you. Council, you can proceed.
Thank you. Now, I will move to KMC. We started that earlier before the break.
Yeah.
That is with respect to the financial statements and reports for the year ended 31st December 2021. I will just read you page 71. It is in relation to the deletion of rates transactions. Are you aware, either through your inspection, if any, or through the audit report, that there were incidents of rates transactions being deleted by collectors?
Being deleted?
Yes.
No.
Now, the findings were that suspected fraud of $297,941 is 43 buttons in respect to rates for the year 2020. These were deleted transactions from the matrix data system, which resulted to non-banking of these transactions as per memo dated 28 December 2020 with reference number KMC/FIN/342. It was noted that a task force was set up by the council to investigate the matter, but there was no investigative report to that effect. Now, again, there is a problem. It has caused huge financial losses, I can say. So therefore, was there any action by your office or your institution to address this issue?
Who set up the task force to look into the matter? Was it the council or the ministry?
The council claimed to have set up a task force, but the auditor outlined that there was no report to that effect to back their claim.
Yeah, if a task force set up, whoever sets it up has a responsibility to produce the report.
That's
that was
true.
going to guide the national audit.
Absolutely true. But then if they didn't do that, then where do you come in as an oversight institution?
Yeah. And again, do we have the mandate to take it up?
So
The member councils, they are saying they are semi-autonomous. And we're trying to avoid what they call too much interference that is going to pollute their semi-autonomy status that they claim to have.
no,
But
you
again,
go ahead, proceed.
no, come on.
No, you proceed.
No, but I said again, if this is brought to light, to the attention of the ministry, that it should stop the ministry from picking it from there, from where the council left off. That is setting up the task force and trying to establish the task force. If a report was produced, where was it? Was the report produced? Yes. If it was yes, where is it?
So the current structure of the area council, unless it is being changed at any given time, or there is a recommendation to have it changed so that there will not be any supervisory role, So we are going by what the structure is as of now. It's not what I believe in, it's not what I think is the best thing to do. But as we speak, your office should be inspecting some of these activities. You don't tell them how to spend their money, perhaps. You may not tell them how to operate on a daily basis, but then you inspect to make sure that things are going okay, right?
Yeah.
And that is what you have highlighted in your statement, that it is your mandate to oversee, it's your mandate to supervise, it's your mandate to inspect. And so therefore, where problems occur, then you must be able to either to address them in one way or the other.
Yes, I agree with you. And I think if you look at the period of our inspection, there's a gap. And I think there's the need to shorten it in order to be able to cover issues that emanate.
What will you recommend? What will you recommend?
I'll recommend, if I have in my way, even monthly.
Monthly, instead of 3 months?
Yes.
But you're not even meeting the 3 months, Mr. Gomez. That's my worry. My worry is it can happen every month.
Yes, because my office, like anybody, we have constraints.
Now tell us the constraints. The commissioners are here. They are listening. My job is not to tell you what your constraints are.
Yes.
Our job here is to highlight what the problem is.
That's why I agreed, before they even conclude, we are going to give them our recommendations.
Now,
that will help them in
that will be good.
But
but until then, now 3 months periodical inspection. You have not met up with the 3 months periodical inspection. In fact, I can say you haven't, out of a scale of 100, you haven't even, you will fail, I will score you 10 or 5 if I have to be very, very generous in relation to carrying your mandate as an inspector. Because you don't have records to back it up that indeed every 3 months you conduct effective periodical inspection, do you?
I think, with due respect, Council, I think we have requested, maybe I am wrong, but I noted it somewhere, inspection reports. Now, that will serve as evidence that inspections are conducted, but not as conducted as you may wish, like to do it regularly. We have our constraints, and we couldn't do it quarterly as we envisage. But of course, it will be good.
It is not as I wish. It is just the requirement. You said every 3 months. You told me about the 3 months. I may not even have been aware of the periodical 3 months inspection. And you told me about the 3 months, and you haven't met the 3 month requirement. So let's move. Let's go to I will page 89. Page 89 is.
Council, let me ask.
Yes.
Mr. Gomez, are you aware of a letter written to the chairman of the Local Government Service Commission by Pasit Sise, the CEO of Mansakonko Area Council, reporting that one Mr. Lamin Balde at Bureng Sub-Treasury, one Mr. Lamin Cham at Kiang, Central Rates and Tax Collection Area, and one Ibrahim Asane, Market Master at Soma Central Market, were involved in financial indiscipline. And that Mr. Lamin Balde at Bureng Sub-Treasury was involved in a fraud case amounting to 29,000. And Mr. Lamin Cham, a revenue collector at Kiriang Central Collection Area, was also involved in non-submission of collected revenue amounting to 59,420. And it seems nothing was done, and the CEO was compelled to write to the chairman of the Service Commission. Was action taken with respect to this letter?
I wouldn't be sure whether the letter reached the commission, since the process or procedure is not for them to write direct to the commission, but through the permanent secretary. So at this stage, I cannot confirm that the letter reached the commission.
So you did not act on this information? You've never seen this letter?
Yes, as far as I can remember, I have never seen that.
Thank you. Council, you can proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, the Honorable Commissioners. So let's go through some of the issues for KMC, and then we can turn to Brikama as well. My lead counsel just in fact wrote drawn my attention to what we have been discussing, your oversight function, as to what you can do, what you cannot do. We have highlighted that you can enter into these premises, request for or demand documentation or interviews with individuals to ascertain some of these problems. And the inspection and monitoring of local government is section 150. It talks about that in your role as an inspector, one of the reasons is to foster the elimination of corruption and abuse of office. And in doing that, you can enter and inspect the premises or property of any local government authority as may be relevant to the inspection, inspect books of accounts, records, stores, and any other documentation and require any person to produce any document or item connected with the inspection. Where necessary, retain any document or item connected with the case being investigated, and look into any matter on his or her own initiative or on complaint made to him or her by any member of the public. We have talked about this issue, and I know you are familiar with.
Yeah.
That's why I asked you what are your rights and what are the obligations and so on and so forth. My worry is when you, as an institution, in the performance of your oversight function, you will agree with me that you are not even supposed to wait for a body like the Auditor General, National Audit, to in fact launch an investigation. This is their mandate. They will do it annually. But you, on the other hand, as an oversight function, institution, you should be doing this periodically. And you have said 3 months. You come up with your own report, come up with your own findings that may even not be highlighted by the auditor at any given time. But you have not been doing that. You understand? And now you have problems being done, highlighted for you and identified for you. You still have not made any action. What is your reaction to that?
Not satisfactory.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what can be done?
Yeah. There's the need to address them and address those issues with urgency.
So another issue of concern is on page 100. It is about the alteration of payment voucher numbers. By the word itself, alteration of payment voucher numbers, you will see that it is a serious issue. In fact, it has been highlighted as high risk or high priority by the auditor. So the specific findings are that some payment voucher numbers were altered using pens as detailed in Annex D. So people were using pens to make alterations to figures in relation to voucher numbers. So you don't even need me to tell you the level of the fraudulent scheme that is being executed here as outlined by the auditor.
Yeah, if the voucher numbers were printed and needs to be changed, it shouldn't be changed handwritten. If it is changed handwritten, it should be preceded by the name and signature of the one or the person or individual effecting the change. But I agree that is not a best practice. If there are errors in the payment voucher that was printed, then perhaps it may be not cost effective, but reprinting may be a good way forward.
It's not even a matter of it being not being a best practice, but because that is not in fact an issue to be discussed. No one will argue otherwise. You understand? The issue is, what have you done as an inspector, as an oversight institution, when these things are being highlighted? I am more concerned about the revenue loss for the country. When an individual or a collector can just decide to just alter figures and present whatever they feel they can present on a daily basis, and nothing is being done about it.
Yeah, it is a concern.
So will you say that you are doing your duties as an inspector effectively?
No.
let us conclude on with KMC. We have to discuss the issue of sanitation. I heard the chairperson saying that our women are going to the market and they will not even have a very clean environment to sell their vegetables and so on and so forth. And really, the auditor has highlighted these issues. In fact, was even concerned about the health hazard it may cause. But page 30 talks about poor maintenance of block toilets. And the findings were that $561,688 was spent for the renovation of the toilets in 2021. And we observed the following: men and women share the same toilet. The manhole for the toilet was broken and covered with plastic bags. There were blockages within the toilets that needed attention, and the flush system was not functioning. And as a result, the water supply was through basins. Now, there was a picture illustrated. I would definitely want you to look at this personally. It's on page 130. Now you may miss on a timely basis to correct the malpractices that are happening in the area council in relation to financial or fraudulent practices and financial misappropriations. But to the extent of as well not supervising how women or the average Gambian or the average human being has access to basic sanitary things in the market is just really a serious issue. Just again read for us one or two of the findings of the auditor with respect to the poor maintenance of the block toilets.
Yes, men and women share the same toilets. The manhole for the toilet was broken and covered with plastic bags.
If you are to inspect, if you are doing your job as an inspector, is this something that you can ordinarily find out for yourself?
Yes.
The
issue of the two sexes sharing the same toilet is against our Gambian or African culture.
You don't even need
that shouldn't happen.
You don't even need the Auditor General to even highlight this. You could have just found out yourself by virtue of doing your job as an oversight institution.
Yes.
And this problem, I believe, is still. Do you know whether that is still the case as we speak?
No, unless we visit the site.
Did you visit the site?
I say unless we visit the site to ascertain.
Did you at any time visit the site?
No.
You haven't?
Yeah, that's why I said unless
which site is this?
It's not stated.
Serekunda is stated there. Is Serekunda market?
No, it's not stated which of the markets, whether Serekunda or...
Just look at the picture.
Yeah, the picture cannot tell me which market it is.
Let
if
me
it
show
was
you.
shown somewhere that this is Latunda market or Bagote market,
it is Serekunda market as well, but it's in fact a problem across all the markets within KMC.
Okay. Yeah.
It is a problem as well.
Serekunda market.
You have seen it?
Yes.
Serekunda market.
It's written, yeah.
Very well.
Somewhere.
So, but the issue is not just about it being Serekunda market. It's a problem in all the markets with a... Yes, so it's hello? Yes, it is going on now. It is a problem across all the markets as well. Okay. And what you simply could have done as an oversight institution is just to pay a visit to the market, and you will find out that this is the problem they're facing on a daily basis. Okay. And your institution failed to do that. Every year, the same old problem. How can we solve this problem?
Yeah. I think, to be honest, we have for a while not been engaging in visitation of the markets within the KM area or the GBA area, unlike in the rural councils. But I think there's the need to expand our visits to cover market areas or public places where public funds are utilized.
You know, see, I believe that it is easy to say, if you are just to leave the execution of your responsibility to someone else, it is going to cause a serious problem. We can just sit here and say, well, KMC haven't done X, Y, Z, but they need to be fact-checked. The law provides that they have to be fact-checked. If someone commits a crime every day and we don't prosecute these crimes, we will have a lawless country. Is that not the case?
Yes.
That's it. So,
Yes, Mr. Gomez, I'll give you a letter that was written, and it was minuted to you to forward to the Local Government Service Commission. And this letter was written by Ibrahim Fofana, Director of Internal Audit. He was responding to the allegations made against him. And I would kindly ask you to read paragraphs 3.11, and I will ask you the question. Thank you. Let him read here. Let him read this paragraph. Yes.
Paragraph 3.11.
Yes.
Instead of going to the extent, I would have been very grateful if the mayor had only given me a first-time warning letter internally, and we addressed this. Since he never wrote to me wrote to me any warning concerning this, the Establishment and Appointments Committee, which is in charge of staff disciplinary matters in conformity with the Local Government Act, has also not written any warning to me. At one time, the Establishment Committee had an informal meeting with me and asked me as to what were my constraints, if any. I told them about some of my constraints, but no remedy was provided apart from that of the vehicle afterwards.
Now, the issues highlighted in that response, since that was addressed to the permanent secretary, were steps taken to remedy those issues at the KMC?
At the KMC, because what I understand, he was no longer in that unit, he was deployed to
No.
internal...
My question is, all those issues that were highlighted in that letter, was it addressed by the ministry, which is the oversight institution for the council?
No,
Or are you aware, or did you sit over it, because this
No,
has to deal with personnel?
What I was aware was his redeployment from Director of Finance to Director of Audit, Internal Audit.
So did you ask any questions? Did you find out why, from Director of Finance to Director of Audit?
Yes, because he was invited to the office. From the council point of view, which he himself admitted, he has no audit background to handle that office.
So, but was that the only issue in that letter that he is responding to? Since you said you invited him to the office, we just want you to explain and clarify for us some of these issues and whether you have taken action pursuant to what they are saying in those documents.
Yes, action in respect to this, like mayor not writing to him prior or the establishment?
No, that is not the issue. There is a response that is given by the writer of that letter to the permanent secretary, highlighting all the issues. I just gave you a paragraph to read, but there are so many paragraphs because I think it's a 5-page letter or 4-page letter. So, and so many issues were highlighted. And you said he came to the office. So I am asking you to, if you know, explain to the commission what transpired, what are the issues, whether you have resolved them.
We couldn't resolve them.
Thank you. That is
Yeah,
what I am
couldn't
looking
resolve
for.
them.
Yes. Council, can you please proceed?
Thank you very much. We have issues of unsigned contracts committee meetings, wherein the contracts committee will present meetings, a minute of meetings when they have not been authenticated. As well, we have issues of monies being spent on renovation of toilets when it is not being properly maintained, poor drainage system as well being highlighted. And I take it that you haven't done proper inspection to find out and solve these problems as well.
Yeah, to the toilet facilities, etc. No, we didn't.
Again, of particular concern is that if you look at the audit report that we're going through, the KMC audit report, just to close with it, the auditor made a disclaimer of opinion. He sat where you are sitting right now and explained to us what a disclaimer of opinion is. And to the best of my recollection, of my memory, you only have a disclaimer of opinion when the auditor is not presented with the required documentation to provide a very accurate opinion. And then if I have to read to you what the disclaimer of opinion is all about, he said, we have audited the financial statements of Carnifing Municipal Council for the year ended 31st December 2020. These financial statements comprise of revenue and expenditure statements and balance sheet for the year then ended, and a summary of significant accounting policies and the other explanatory information was set out on page 114 to 31. Because of the significance of the matters described in the basis of disclaimer of opinion, we have not been able to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence to provide a basis for an audit opinion. Accordingly, we do not express an opinion on the financial statements. It's such that there was no proper financial statement presented by KMC. In fact, all they present was just expenditure, statements, for example, income and expenditure. So there was no proper financial statement to back up some of the assertions in relation to their income and their expenditure. We have gone through the audit report. We have seen that, in fact, on other instances, they don't present. There were no complete financial statements that have been requested for the auditing by the auditor, and therefore it was very much serious to at a point that the auditor will highlight it as a high risk, for example. And the basis for the disclaimer of opinion, as far as the auditor is concerned, is that we conducted our audit in accordance with the internal standards of Supreme Audit Institution, and our responsibilities under those standards described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statement section of our report. We are independent of the entity in accordance with the Code of Conduct. Now, we believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a base for our opinion. The following are the base used for the disclaimer of opinion. That the reason why the auditor made a disclaimer of opinion is that there were unconfirmed changes of comparative figures. That's number one. That the matrix property tax, lack of audit trail into the matrix property tax system. And here he said that there was no audit trail for the matrix property tax system in respect of rates. We were unable to have access to the system to confirm and validate the accuracy of the rates figure of $81,070, it is 873 bututs, 81 million, in fact, 70,873 bututs. Reports on the revenue and expenditure statements. Our IT unit attempted to obtain data from both front and back ends to provide to the financial audit team, but no access was successful. The Deputy Director of Finance has the superior or super admin rights on the matrix property tax system, which includes access to all the systems. Now, we further note suspected fraud of $297,941.43 in respect of deleted rate transactions as per council memo. So now here, the auditor is saying that there was no audit trail to even provide an opinion. They couldn't even have access to the systems. What you have is a figure being given to them, but it's not been backed by any supportive document. Now, you come to the other issue, the payroll system. That the payroll system also lack audit trail in respect of payroll transactions to verify and validate the accuracy of the payroll figures in the revenue and expenditure statements. In short, it is of a serious concern that even at the point of auditing, they couldn't have access to the basic systems that they need to have access to audit. How can they verify the figures? So you are just given a random figure of income and expenditure, in almost all the situations. They cannot ascertain any of them. And this is actually to the tune of millions of dollars, which means there are no proper accounting system. Now, lack of data was another issue. There was no data in the Ecotech system to manage daily collections for the Malit project. Now, the revenue and expenditure statement reported an unconfirmed balance of 6,000 for skip bins, whilst no figure was reported for residential waste collections. We could not determine the actual types of collections made for the year. So money is being unaccounted for. Revenue being lost, I can say. And this has been highlighted. It is a serious concern. Unpresented license invoices. We have gone through all of these things. Invoices for license payments were not presented for audit inspection to confirm that the actual invoice amounts agrees with the receipt amounts. Now, in the absence of the invoices, the correctness of the license figures of $83,535,179.12 buttons reported on the revenue and expenditure statements could not be verified. We have this country, and to be honest, I will not apologize to anyone for saying that people fail this country time and again when we don't do our job. And when you and I sit here and you're supposed to make sure that there is an oversight function effectively carried out, and it is not being done, it is sad. I keep on telling my colleagues that every single day, that whenever I go through this audit report, I couldn't just understand it. So what do you have to say to these serious issues, even like financial statements not properly being prepared for the purpose of auditing an entire area council?
Yeah, certainly it's a serious matter of concern to all of us. And I must admit that the preparation or production of financial statements by councils has been a challenge over the years. And that is why 2 years ago, government decided to introduce IFMIS into the councils. That will eventually help or solve the problem of financial statements.
You have been a director for how many years now?
Just 2.
2 is not just. In those 2 years, I can tell you millions of dollars have been lost in just those 2 years. So much money. So you don't sit here and say it's just 2 years. It's 2 years of inaction added to so many years of inaction by the ministry. You watch councils operate anyhow they feel like operating without proper oversight. I don't think there's a need to go through all of these documents, Madam Chair. I think it is just clear we'll have the same answer over and over and over again. It's clear that the country will keep on losing millions of dollars by the fact that area councils operate on a daily basis as to however they deem fit, and there is no also oversight function at the side of the ministry. I think this would be a convenient point for me to stop, and I hand over the witness to Madam Chair and the commissioners.
Okay, I just have one last question, and I can hand over to the commissioners to ask questions if they have any. And Mr. Gomez, I have a letter, folio 75. One Mr. Ibrahim Njane was requesting for the payment of his pension, which has been delayed for so long. And in his request for the payment of his pension benefit, he has to restate, and this is a letter written on the 27th of September 2020. He again highlighted the sum of $1,121,000, which is not accounted for, a $42,000, which is also not accounted for, a $701,000, which is not accounted for, a $73,145, which is not accounted for, and $42,150, which is also not accounted for. And he further also stated that another additional $56,710 is not accounted for, $172,005 is also not accounted for, $59,420 is also not accounted for. Our concern here is that this Mr. Jane, who has written to the Local Government Service Commission asking that his pension be paid, he had to restate all of these monies that are unaccounted for, and the Service Commission has not taken action. What is your response to that? That is in folio 75.
Yes.
Thank you.
If action wasn't taken, is a sad situation.
Yes. No, before you proceed, let me just say, it was minuted to you, and in the minute you were directed to ask Mr. Jane to redirect the letter to the office of the PS. Can you confirm for me who signed that minute on that letter?
Yes, because as can be seen on this letter, he wrote to the commission direct.
I am asking who minuted that to you?
The permanent secretary.
That you should send back the letter,
Yes,
and
we
it
should
should be
notify-
addressed to
Yes,
him.
yes.
Okay, thank you. So was those issues addressed, and is his pension paid?
Yes, his pension is paid.
Okay. But what about the issues he highlighted and listing all those amounts of money that are not, that are still outstanding and are not collected?
Yes, I think it's still outstanding, to the best of my knowledge. Anyway.
Thank you. So you will have, I will hand you over to Commissioner Fall to ask you questions. Thank you.
Madam Chair. Mr. Comis,
Yes, Commissioner.
I guess you will agree with me that the Directorate of Local Governance is the nerve center of local governance in the Gambia. Will you agree?
I agree.
That it is the link between the center and the periphery.
Yes.
It has kind of metamorphosed from a small unit, used to be a directorate, an inspectorate at the ministry, to now a directorate.
Yes.
And this was all in anticipation of a robust decentralization and local government reform. And that in actual fact led to the enactment of the Local Government Act and some of the other subsidiary legislations. But what we have been seeing here, or what we have been hearing here, is some form of capacity deficit, both at the level of the councils in terms of administration, policy formulation, and even at the level of the ministry. Maybe at the level of the ministry, I wouldn't call it capacity deficit. I would say negation of responsibilities. So now, as a Directorate of Local Governance, and in anticipation of all the responsibilities that are going to be given to the councils, because we have already seen a shortfall or a gap in the implementation of the Local Government Act. From 2002 and prior to that, there was consultation with all the stakeholders, the councils and others. They had input in the formulation of the act. And it was going to go side by side with decentralization and local government reforms. And the decentralization was not about the congestion or the concentration, but devolution of both human, financial, and material resources.
Sure.
Now, with all this capacity deficit that we have seen, what is your ministry doing, or your department, or your directorate doing to address this issue of capacity gap?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Commissioner. I agree with your concerns that you've raised. Capacity gaps has been an issue and continue to be an issue, and that the Commission is addressing gradually. Those of you who are familiar with councils will agree that maybe 10 years ago, we may have just one graduate as CEO. Today, as we speak, the numbers are on the increase. Even you have people with master's degree serving as chief executive officers, which was never the case some 10, 15 years ago. Recently, the Commission has just conducted and recruited certain positions as requested and advertised by councils, and some of them have have since reported. Others requested for 1 month notice of their current employer before they report to work. And the second batch interviews are slated for either 13, 14 or 14, 15 of next month. So the capacity gaps at the councils is being gradually addressed.
But as you rightly said, the capacity gap is being addressed, and that there are graduates with master's degrees and so forth. But still, we have problems of management, problems of financial management. We have problems of administrative issues. So what can the ministry do at your level, at the governance directorate, to enforce or enhance your monitoring capacity? Do you need more staff to assist in the monitoring of councils? I can remember councils during those old days, there used to be a monthly monitoring of councils. And then councils are expected to produce monthly bank reconciliations to see whether there are any gaps in the financial management of the council. But I don't know, what is your directorate doing, or what can be done to capacitize, if you need staff, to have more staff, qualified staff, to help in the monitoring and inspection of these councils? Because at the end of the day, it all comes to monitoring. You can have million staff with PhDs and 75 million PhDs, but yet when it comes to implementation, there are issues if nobody monitors them. And that is why we are having all these problems with the audit reports.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Commissioner. Two things are fundamental here. Additional staff is required at our level, and that should be accompanied by not only continuous but enforcement of recommendations from the audit, emanating from the audit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Sugai.
Mr. Gomez.
Yes, Commissioner.
One key aspect of principles of community development is to identify, is to embark on projects for the people and by the people. What is your ministry doing to help municipalities to identify projects that are useful to the communities?
Yeah, I think project identification is always at their level. Many times projects are designed or developed from the wards or from the communities and then sent to the councils. But right at the regions or the councils, we equally have community development staff on the ground and in the communities who are equally well equipped to support those communities or those wards to come up with tangible and projects that are going to help address the needs of the communities.
Another question is, when it comes to matters of procurement and contracting, what does your ministry do to support the councils?
Yes, the procurement of councils is no different from that of central government. They follow the same procedure and pattern in all their procurement processes, guided by the GPPA Act and its subsequent regulations. So at their level, they have their, for the bigger councils, they have procurement units, but for the smaller councils, by virtue of their revenue size, they only have a tiny staff, could be 1 or 2 officers as a start. But plans are underway to expand that unit, depending on the magnitude of the procurement process being conducted as and per council. But that is done at their level with no ministerial interference until and unless any council requests ministerial support, then we can provide by liaising with the relevant authorities or stakeholders.
And my third question is that the Local Government Act is outdated. So how soon do you think you should be amending it?
Yes. The Local Government Act, as you said, it is outdated, came into being way back in 2002, and since then has undergone went through the knife over 7 occasions that we are just addressing issues in piecemeal. But 2000 to date, a lot of time has elapsed, and of course I concur with you, there's the urgent need to revisit, review the Act in order to meet up with the modern day 21st century challenges of this country. Regional consultations has already taken place. A consultant was hired with the support of the UNDP, and the consultant and his consulting team trekked the regions of this country to consult not only with councils but relevant stakeholders, all geared towards addressing the emerging concerns of the Local Government Act. Unfortunately, or fortunately as one may perceive it, by the time I address you this afternoon, it should have been a done deal. But when the regional consultations were concluded, it coincided with the time of reviewing the national constitution. The Ministry of Justice advised us to halt, because knowing that all legislations take cue from the Constitution of the Republic. So it could be a duplication of efforts. Like we proceed with the Act, and when the Constitution finally comes into being, then there will be a need to adjust 1 or 2 things. And the advice given to us was to halt the process pending the outcome of the constitutional consultations. Sadly, as we speak, we all know the fate of that constitution, but we have decided, even if it means spending additional resources to adjust here and there in order to align the Act with the Constitution. And that is why we have engaged the consultant, and there was a day he even committed to come and meet us so that we look at what is required and then schedule dates for the national consultation to be preceded by the national validation. Unfortunately, when he came, the permanent secretary was called somewhere, and the meeting didn't take place. So that is the stage of the situation, but once we are able to finalize with the consultant, then the national consultations will take place to give an opportunity to stakeholders at the national level to come up with their inputs, and then that will be followed by the validation of the Act. But I can assure you that it will be done shortly, because we are no longer depending on the UNDP, but government, we have already set up aside some monies, which the Ministry of Finance has just released to us following a request for cash allocation. So I can assure you that hopefully by end of June, we'll be in a position to conduct the national consultations and maybe the validation of the Local Government Act.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Gomez. Mr. Joyner has a question.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The whole thing is the questions and the answers boils down to the ineffectiveness of the Directorate of Local Governance. My question is very simple and short. You have stated here that your staff complement is 3. You have 3 staff in your department.
Yeah.
Considering it being the nerve center of the councils, to make them to work as prescribed by the Act, do you think 3 is enough, or do you think, what is your number of staff that you would actually need to do all your requisite oversight functions?
Yeah, that will need to be assessed, but honestly, the number as we speak is on the low side, and it needs to be beefed up. If we should be in a position to honestly take on board all the issues emanating. The task ahead is very huge, and therefore we'll need an expanded staff to be able to handle these mounting challenges confronting us.
Thank you. Mr. Silla, Honorable Silla has a question.
Mr. Director, not anything personal, but actually as a director, planning is key, and there are steps in planning. If at all you, according to the response you've given to the councils, it seems that you don't know anything that was there before you. And that is what we have read, what I have seen from this. We all know that if we want to plan, we should know where we are coming from. You must know what the institution was like. Now, where do you want to take it? How do you get there? And if you are there, how do you know that you are there? These are the steps in planning. But if one is missing, you get stopped. And this is what has happened. Because if you are saying, with all due respect, that you are not privy to the audit report, which is available all over this country, as a director, then I think we have a problem. We have a big problem. Then it means that you don't definitely know what the issues are. And not knowing the issues means that you cannot address them. That's the hard fact. So I would that is one. You talked about the act, yes, even if the act is coming from planet Mars or from Jannah, if you don't have the right people to implement the act, you are going back to zero. I will not only dispute that it's a capacity problem. Let's say it as it is an attitudinal problem. If you say 10 years ago or 15 years ago, there was only one graduate in the entire system, but the systems were more functional now than when we have graduates, then what's the point of increasing the capacity? Then I think there is a core problem that we are not addressing. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you so much, and you can respond, and lead counsel have 2 questions. Then we will wrap up, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
You can respond to what he is saying, and then I can hand over the mic to the lead counsel.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Honorable Commissioner Silla. It's not a one-off, like it's not only saying capacity. Capacity is the only missing link. We have to look at a whole set of issues, because if you address one and you don't address the other, we are still not out of the hurdle. So we have to look at everything in its entirety and address it. But again, revising or reviewing the act, as you said, as one of the commissioners says, we can have maybe out of the entire staff, 70 of them with PhD. That may not matter. That may not solve the problem.
Thank you. Council?
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Gomez, I just have two wrap-up questions for you. You have spoken about capacity issues and redoing the Local Government Act, and you've also spoken about the fact that you are sometimes faced with conflict by virtue of your position as the Director of Governance and by virtue of your position as a member of the Local Government Service Commission. Now, do you think, or what do you think should be done about this? What would you recommend to be done to remove this conflict? Do you think that it is necessary to have the directorate on its own? Are you able to make decisions, or is the Director of Governance able to make decisions by himself that to enforce the provisions of the Local Government Act? Because there's no point having larger capacity, as the commissioners have said, and you cannot enforce. If you're inspecting and you don't do anything about it, there's really no point to what you're doing. Do you think that it is necessary to be a standalone directorate without interference from the permanent secretary and the ministry? And do you also think that the Local Government Service Commission should also be not just separate on paper, but completely separate in reality from the ministry? What are your recommendations in that regard?
Maybe the commission to be completely separate, stand-alone stuff, with its own secretary. That's for the future.
And what about the Directorate of Governance? Do you think that it can be effective when the director cannot make decisions about enforcement by himself?
It can be effective when the...
Do you think that the Directorate of Governance can be effective in carrying out its mandate as provided for in the Local Government Act, where the director cannot make decisions in respect of implementation, enforcement, without the say-so of the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Lands?
Yes, here we cannot rule out the permanent secretary. As the name implies, he is the overall head of the institution. But perhaps we should look at how best and the quickest ways to implement or address issues as and when they come.
And do you think that
either when they write to the permanent secretary, they make sure a copy is provided for the directorate.
For the Directorate of Governance.
Yes, and with powers to act.
And do you think that there should be sanctions for the Directorate of Governance and or the permanent secretary where they have not implemented what needs to be implemented in respect of the local governance
that's
structure?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one bit. My other issue is in respect of the role of councillors and mayors, chairpersons. These are elected officials by the general public, and they're responsible for so many things. They're supposed to be helping central government implement its plans and policies for the country, and they're supposed to be more in tune with the local people within their jurisdiction, so they're supposed to know more what the people need, what the development requirements are, etc. And it is clear that when it comes to local government elections, turnout is not as great as when it comes to presidential elections. Now, do you think that this has anything to do with the people's awareness of what the functions of their councillors and their mayors or chairpersons are?
Yes, it has to do with that.
And what
Partly.
does the government do to sensitize the people about these issues?
Yeah, when you talk about sensitization, we don't wait until elections around the corner, then you start to sensitize. No. Sensitization should be made at the right time. Let the electorates know that any other election conducted in this country is as important as the presidential election. But the perception of some electorates is, once I'm done with the presidential, the others are irrelevant.
So that's what I'm asking. What does government do to sensitize the people, to let the people know what the role of their councillors are, what the role of the mayors and chairpersons are, so that they understand that their vote counts in terms of the development that they're going to get within their communities. Does government do anything to sensitize the general population about this?
I don't think if it was done, maybe not done at the right time.
So do you have
But
any
for the
recommendations in respect of this?
Yes.
What
I
are those?
will recommend massive or nationwide sensitizations on the importance of each of the elections conducted in this country, that the vote or their vote or our vote is our voice.
And lastly, you have, I believe you said that you believe that you think the commission, the Local Government Service Commission, should stand on its own.
That's an opinion.
That's why I asked you,
It
is
may
that
dif-
what
it
you,
may differ with somebody
what
else.
you believe should happen, considering your experience with both sides?
Yes, maybe if the laws permit it, why not?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Lead Counsel.
Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gomez. Okay, Mr. Gomez, we would draw the curtains here, but we will invite you again to shed more light on some issues, and we will expect you to submit to us the documents that we have requested during the course of the proceedings, and when and if we require to call you back, we will do so. But for the meantime, you are released to go back to your office and to continue your work. Thank you so much, and we may rise.
Thank you.